Hi all, I thought we would do a slightly different video today, and that is kind of a chit-chatty video. So if you want to grab a cup of tea or a glass of water, or if it's, evening time, a little cocktail, and just kind of sit back and relax. This isn't going to be necessarily a how-to video about encaustic, but more of a why I love encaustic, and maybe I can talk you into also loving encaustic. So before we dive into the video though, here's a quick introduction in case you're new around here and wondering who I am. Hi there, I'm Stacy, the encaustic mixed media artist behind Studio Stacy. Encaustic literally means to burn in. So I paint with beeswax and a torch, and because it's mixed media, pretty much anything else I can get my hands on. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Consider subscribing and joining this artsy community. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, which helps me get introduced to more like-minded artsy folks like yourself. I decided to make this video because I've been chatting with quite a few people in person, either at a few art shows that I've done recently or when they've come to see the studio through Harvest Host. And also I've had a couple of people reach out to me that are new to encaustic and ask me about encaustic specifically. So I thought it would be kind of a fun video to do as to why I fell in love with encaustic and kind of why I haven't looked back. Anyways, let's jump into the video here. All right, I thought I would kind of take you back to the beginning with my encaustic journey. And if you've been here since the very beginning and have been following me since the beginning, you'll know prior to me being an encaustic artist, I was a mixed media acrylic artist, and I loved doing that, but I felt like I was maybe getting a little bit I don't know if stale is the right word. I personally, I think, was maybe perhaps getting a little bit bored with it. So when I came across an encaustic artist, his name is Paul Fletcher. I will put his information down there below in the description. He's an amazing encaustic artist and still making beautiful encaustic paintings. But at any rate, I came across him at an art show that I was at, an art festival, and I hadn't heard of encaustic prior to that, like quite a few people that come to the different art shows that I'm at. So anyways, he took the time and told me all about it, and then I immediately went home and went down the Google rabbit hole. So after I went down this rabbit hole of Googling it, I think I was really drawn to it because of the uniqueness of it, because I hadn't heard of it in the past, and it was something new to me and new to kind of start experimenting with. So at first I started experimenting on my own, and then as I really kind of started falling more and more in love with it, I started taking some online classes and some in-person classes from other encaustic artists. And I didn't initially completely give up acrylic. As I was experimenting with encaustic, I was still painting with acrylic mixed media. And I eventually, it took me a little while, but I eventually gave up acrylic completely and switched over to encaustic. And I have to say that was about 6 years ago now or so, and I really haven't looked back. I just love it. I fell in love with it so much that I pretty much completely gave away all of my acrylic paints. I just have a teeny tiny little small box left, and for some reason I'm kind of hanging on to those. I don't know, nostalgia reason perhaps, but at any rate, I fell so in love with it that I just gave up acrylic completely. All right, so now that you kind of have the beginning of my encaustic journey story, let me tell you why I truly love it. I love it for the simplicity of the materials. that it's an all-natural product, that it's pretty much just beeswax, well not pretty much, but it is, beeswax and tree sap or damar resin. And if I want to add a pigment to it, or if I want to make some paint a certain color, I use earth pigments. So it's pretty much just all natural, and if you know me, I love nature. And yeah, it's just the simplicity of the materials and the fact that I can take a hunk of wax and turn it into a painting just is amazing to me. If I really could do the entire process and have bees and have my own refined beeswax, I would perhaps do that. But I think there's something about making something from nothing in a way. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I love encaustic, the simplicity of the materials. And if I'm completely honest with you, I also love painting with a torch. There's something about having the fire at the end of this torch and just being able to kind of control the paint how you want to control it, or how I want to control it, whether it's, you know, super textured or really smooth. There's just something about, you know, painting with fire. And the more I've worked with encaustic, the more things I found to mix in with encaustic. I'm a person who really, really likes change, and I love experimenting with things. And I found with acrylic, while you could mix certain things in with acrylic, encaustic just seems endless to me, other than perhaps acrylic paint. You can't mix with encaustic, but you know, I could take oil paint or watercolor or pastels, all of that, and then also non-traditional art supplies like fabric or crochet or metal even, and you know, all sorts of things, tar, oil sticks. The options are really, really endless, and I just love thinking about like, oh, I wonder how this would mix in, and just trying it out. I have a whole video on different supplies that you can use with encaustics, and I'll try to either link it up top here or link it down below in the description if you want to go into further detail on this. And kind of in the same realm of that, I feel like encaustic really lends itself to experimentation. I don't know, it almost encourages that for me, where acrylic I did experiment with, but encaustic, I don't know, I just seem to be throwing everything and anything at it, and it's fun. Sometimes they don't work, or sometimes I don't like how something comes out, but yeah, I don't know, I'm just not bored with encaustic whatsoever. All right, I mentioned the torch earlier, and another reason I love encaustic is because of the different, how you can manipulate the material, the different textures or smoothness that you can get with a painting, and how you can use like several techniques or several different tools to achieve similar results. For example, there's the torch, there's the heat gun, I can use an iron, the encaustic writer, or a teeny tiny little paintbrush, or a giant paintbrush. There's just, I have found encaustic so much more enjoyable. So anyways, back to manipulating the material. Just the smoothness and the texture you can get, and how you can either make a completely smooth painting or a completely textured painting, or a combination of that in one painting. I don't know, it's just amazing to me, and I never get bored with it. Now, like if I get tired of using the torch, I can always pick up the heat gun or an iron or something else. And speaking of texture, I know sometimes it's really hard to see how smooth a painting is or how textured a painting is in these videos, but to me, encaustic is very tactile. Matter of fact, when people either come into the studio or if we're at art shows or art festivals, I encourage them to touch the paintings. A lot of times parents will come in and tell the kids, don't touch, don't touch. And I'll say to them, if it's okay with you, please let your child touch the paintings. Just don't touch in other booths. But I don't know, there's something tactile about the encaustic. It's almost like a soft feeling, even though it's not soft, but it feels like, I don't know, it's just totally different. So if you've never touched an encaustic painting, if you're ever someplace that you get a chance to, I encourage you to, if the artist allows for that. But yeah, I don't know, there's something very, very tactile about it, and I love that. I'm constantly kind of running my hands over the painting. Normally it's to check if it's too hot or too cold to put another layer on, but there's just something about that. All right, I think this is the last point I want to make, and that is about the layering process with encaustic. Most of my paintings have anywhere between 10 to 30 layers of wax, of encaustic. And I like the layering effect. I like putting on just real thin layers of the encaustic paint, and the fact that you might have 20 layers built up but can see all the way through to that very first layer is something that's, I feel, really special. I think it adds so much depth to encaustic paintings and paintings in general. And I don't know, it's fun to keep adding these layers and seeing what possibly the next layer will do. And then of course, if you don't like that layer, you can just scrape back just a little bit to reveal perhaps what's underneath, and even that could be very, very interesting, and you might not exactly know what you're going to scrape back to or how that's going to look. So it's these surprise elements. Can you tell? I like change, and I think I like these surprise elements in my painting process. I also really like the fact that when you're adding these layers, you can add very transparent layers or very opaque layers, just depending on how much pigment you want to mix in with the wax, or how many layers of transparent paint you put over each layer. So eventually the layers underneath, you know, you really can't see them as well. But I don't know, this whole layering process, it's just magical to me. I was just looking down at my notes and I thought of one more thing that I wrote down here, and that is the smell. The sweet smell of the beeswax mixed with the resin. It's, I don't know, it's just, it's delicious. A matter of fact, when people come into the tent, they're like, oh, what is that nice smell? It's just, it's like a sweet, it's subtle, it's sweet, but, and Matt always knows when I have the encaustic going, because especially in our old house when my studio was in the house, the whole house would just smell like beeswax, and it's a lovely smell. So how can you not love it? All right, I think that's it. Kind of a shorter, sweeter, chit-chatty video here, but I hope you can tell that I have a huge passion for encaustic. And if you have any questions or comments, or just want to reach out and say, hey, I'm an encaustic artist too, I would love to hear from you. And if you're not an encaustic artist, I hope I've perhaps given you a reason or two to try out encaustic. Let me know down there below in the comments, are you an encaustic artist? And if you are, what do you love about encaustic? Or if you're not an encaustic artist, what type of medium do you work with? Or maybe you don't work with any art mediums at all, but are interested in trying out some. I would love to hear that. And yeah, what is your favorite thing about the medium that you work in? So anyways, I'm gonna let you go here. Thank you so much for coming along. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It truly, truly does help me out. More painting videos will be coming your way soon. Thanks again for joining me. Bye for now.